On the line with us is Adele Stan. She is the Washington Bureau Chief for AlterNet, alternet.org, the website. And Adele was inside that building over the weekend where the Koch brothers were holding their Americans for Prosperity and Steal Back and Trash the American Dream Conference, and or whatever they called it. Adele, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Thom.
Thanks for joining us. First of all, just quickly give us a recap of what happened this weekend.
Well, moving between Cokeville and Occupyville all weekend had my head spinning. It was really quite something. This weekend, what happened on Friday night? This so-called Take Back the American. No, wait, what's the correct name of it? Defending the American Dream Summit is what they call it.
Right. This is what the Koch brothers call.
This is what the Koch brothers call their annual Americans for Prosperity Foundation conference.
Right.
And so on Friday night, what happens is usually sort of a snoozer of an event where media don't usually hang out for it. It's an awards dinner or just a dinner. This time they didn't give out an award. And, there's some speechifying and shoulder rubbing, and that's usually about it. But the 99%ers are in the hall. Mm-hmm. And so you had one of the keynotes, the retired Judge Andrew Napolitano, who is...
the Fox commentator.
Yes, the Fox News commentator, the talker. He was up there giving a speech, and a young man stood up, and honestly, I could not hear what the young man was shouting. But, of course, he was quickly removed from the hall, and it was very interesting because there seemed to be Metropolitan Police in the hall. When I say the hall, I'm talking about the ballroom in the Walter E. Washington Convention Center, which is a municipal facility, and who are very readily available to take out anybody who would cause any trouble. And they took this guy out, and they put him on the ground, put him on the floor outside the doors of the ballroom, and started going through his pockets, and first had him face down and then turned him face up. And the young man, a guy named Ricky Lamer from Florida, kept saying, I did not consent to this search. I am not resisting, but I did not consent. And they did escort him from the hall. He had a banner that he never did get to unfurl. And so then, and as he's being dragged out, Napolitano gives us, I think it's the Jefferson quote. You would probably know better than I that...
I may disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
You're right. And then they go and slam the kid on the floor.
Yeah.
So, there was a little cognitive disconnect right there. And then, I went back in the hall, and then I came back out, and I was just going to the ladies' room, and I stumbled upon David Koch.
In the ladies' room?
No, I was coming out, and I stumbled upon David Koch looking at out the window outside the third floor ballroom there. And what he was looking at was the assemblage of Occupy protesters, which was quite impressive, at an intersection. And then you go back in, and they start talking about this, and actually the speaker, who's the executive vice president of the Americans for Prosperity Foundation, a woman named Tracy Hankey, then shows a photo of the protesters as evidence of Americans for Prosperity's success. Mm-hmm. And it says, this is success, this is prosperity. Right. So that's kind of how it was going. And then they didn't have dessert in the ballroom. They had it in a hallway, as a buffet, so they could help Dinesh D'Souza sell books. Mm-hmm. And a young woman stood on a chair and did mic check and then said, this is a message from the 99%. She said, we are not Democrats, we are not Republicans, we are you. But as she said, we are you couldn't even hear her because there were a whole bunch of young people surrounded her chanting, USA, USA. And I should say that this young woman has sort of brownish skin, and she's a of Middle Eastern descent. I mean, she's an American of Middle Eastern descent. So that was rather tense. And
so it's almost, in other words, suggesting that by shouting USA, they're saying you're not one of us.
That's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely how I read it. So that's how it was. It was quite intense. But what became really, and I thought that those actions were rather successful, as I thought that the massing of protesters at this particular window, which was obviously chosen because of the view from the ballroom area, was a very smart move. But then what happened afterwards, I'm sorry, I disagree with the person that you talked to, Eric Rohm. When the protesters, not all of them, and we should say that this is a very amorphous movement, and to say that, everybody, was part of the movement, was part of these particular actions is not necessarily true. But they came up to the doors of the convention center. And
we have just 1 minute left.
Okay. And blocked those exits. And then they formed a human chain around those exits. And I'm sorry, that is, in my opinion, that is depriving people of their rights. That's what a bully does, when you're trying to pass on the sidewalk and they want your lunch money. And they wouldn't let people out of the building. They trapped people in the building. And, I think that we have a moral imperative if we're going to present a progressive point of view to, say everybody's entitled to their rights.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to get out of the building?
I was, but I had to talk somebody out, into breaking the chain. And I went to a number of people who refused to do that before I found one who would. And I was really pretty furious about it, to tell you the truth.
And were you having to say, I'm on your side, I'm a progressive, in order to get...
I shouldn't have had to.
Yeah, it should be, hey, I'm an American too.
That's right.
I'm David Koch's sister, let me out.
Right, exactly. So I think they marred, that last action marred what was otherwise a very successful group of actions.
Fascinating. Adele Stan, you can read, Adele wrote a great piece on this. You can read it over at alternet.org. Adele, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Tom.
Great talking with you.